I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Jody, could you call the roll, please?
Dennis,
Here.
Harold,
Here.
Hollenbaugh,
Here.
Odoricio,
Here.
Here.
Robinette,
Here.
Rabando.
Here. Okay, the minutes from our November 6th meeting were circulated for your perusal prior to this evening's meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Jody, do we have any correspondence?
We have one item this evening. The financial budget summary report for the month of October 2023 was received and distributed to council prior to this evening's meeting and is noted for the record.
Okay. That brings us to lobby visitations. Jody,
Lindsay Joe Durham.
when you come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, my name is Lindsay Joe Durham, and I live at 1082 Fairview Avenue. I'm here to honor this day, which is Transgender Day of Remembrance. As I speak, BGO Pride is holding a vigil at Wooster Green, and I wanted to reflect our sentiments here. Trans Day of Remembrance was founded in 1999 by transgender advocate Gwendolyn Ann Smith as a vigil to honor Rita Hester, a transgender woman who was killed in 1998. The vigil commemorated the one-year anniversary of Hester's death and all the transgender people lost to violence that year. On this day, people gather in vigil to read the names of those who have passed in the last year and honor them. However, this event is not simply to martyr and honor those who have passed. We need to push past simple remembrance and performative activism to push for changes to the narrative. We must see the intersectionality that race, gender, mental health, and education issues bring to the table. For if we only honor the dead and not push for change or admit our own compliance in these structures that cause violence, we are doing nothing to help. As scholar Sarah Lamble states, quote, "Our task then is to push these methods further, not only with respect to Trans Day of Remembrance, but also in the many ways we recount and confront violence. None of us are innocent. We must envision practices of remembrance that situate our own positions within structures of power that authorize violence in the first place. Our task is to move from sympathy to responsibility, from compliance to reflexivity, from witnessing to action. It is not simply enough to honor the memory of the dead. We must transform the practices of the living," end quote. So let us honor those that have passed due to trans violence, but know that we cannot only remember their names. After we mourn, we must continue to look at the intersectionality of injustices and work to change them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mark Schaller.
Good evening. Mark Schaller, and I live at 10 Arlington Court. Been a lot of discussion in both the national media and I know here locally about carbon, improving air quality, et cetera. And I just want to speak perhaps on a opposing view to what a lot of is being said today. I've had experience with carbon and carbon credits dating back to 1994. When a company I was working for was approached by a national commodity trading company because they wanted to get in on the ground floor of what they thought was going to be a very aggressive push towards carbon credits. I've been involved in agriculture or agriculture-related for virtually most of my life, and I will come here today basically in that capacity in terms of discussing carbon from the standpoint of what it does and how it affects agricultural production. As most of you probably know and has been made public, the CO2 represents about 412 parts per million. As a fraction, that is 0.0004 of our U.S. or our America's atmosphere. But I look at it more in terms of the value of carbon in terms of agricultural production. We have seen a terrific growth since about the 1950s. And yes, that heralded driving post-World War II and all the things that basically create CO2. And we've seen explosion in agricultural production. And when you think about the world's need for food, the U.S. is an absolutely gigantic producer of a variety of agricultural commodities. And CO2 is critical in the production, in the life cycle of any green and growing plants, including those in agriculture. We get a side benefit to that photosynthesis, and that is that we get oxygen as a result. Many people talk about reducing CO2, and some of the consequences are you're going to reduce
Time.
That's 2 minutes?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay.
Thank you very much.
David Drain.
Good evening. I'm David Drain. I reside at 228 East Court Street, and I'm going to talk about a golf course. We have a golf course inside Bowling Green. It is part of the city park right now. This golf course actually costs the city about $4,000 a year because the city pays for their property tax of $7,000 and accepts in exchange a $3,000 fee for an entire year's use of that land for the country club. This is a very old arrangement. It's been around many, many years. I don't know when the original lease was, the 1920s sometime, I think. I think we should consider better use of that property. The lease is renewable every year, and it automatically renews. It will renew December 31st unless the mayor takes action to put off that renewal. We request that the automatic renewal clause be taken out. That will give us 2 years to work with the community to make better use of that property. Better use because we have a golf course already, a second golf course now. We don't need one inside town. And it would be a more environmental use, more likely, because it would avoid all the chemicals and carbon required to make a golf course run. Thank you.
Quick question. Did you say 7,000?
The city pays back $7,000 in property tax that the country club would pay. Their fee is $3,000, so the city is paying a net of $4,000 a year for the privilege of having a golf course there. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy Manning.
Good evening. I'm Wendy Manning. I live at 865 West Wooster Street, and I'm here on behalf of the Citizens for BG Dog Parks. We just wanted to give you a quick update of some of our activities. We continue to increase awareness and raise funds. We had a pop-up dog park, participated in the holiday parade, painting party, and we're having pictures with Santa. So we're trying to increase awareness, make people know what our group is about. We also are trying to get a lease worked on with the city, and so we're working, Jeff and Hunter are supposed to be meeting quickly about that. We have an example of one from the city of Toledo, and so we would like to progress on that. Once we have a tentative lease and we know what the terms are from the city, then we plan on either forming a LLC or 501c3 to move forward with that project, and this is the preferred arrangement by the city. And so we're trying to push the pace forward and just want it on the record of what we're doing and what our activities are. And our efforts are to work with City Hall, and specifically, we've been told to work with Lori and Hunter, and so we look forward to having a collegial arrangement with them. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Joseph Demar.
Just a quick question. Are lobby visitations always going to be 2 minutes?
Only when we have more than 5 people that sign up.
Okay, well then I'll talk to the council on another slower night.
Okay, thank you.
Craig Zerbal.
Good evening. I'm Craig Zerbal from 1304 North Orleans in Bowling Green. I'm speaking in support of the idea of a carbon fee and dividend. I believe climate change is real and it's a big problem, but I have good news. On the science side, we know exactly how quickly CO2 warms the planet at the concentrations we have, even though they're small. We know exactly what the consequences will be of adding more CO2 or of stopping CO2 emissions. We've invented highly efficient solar panels and wind generators. Bowling Green's really been a leader in implementing those. We have, as people can see, electric cars, heat pumps for heating houses and heating water, induction ranges, batteries for cars and other things. People are even finding good ways and fine-tuning them to emit less CO2 when they're making steel and cement and other essentials. Airplanes and a few other things still need help. Okay, but it's not so much a science problem right now as a technology and engineering problem to get the costs of these things down as we get volumes of production up. But even so, as you start to see these things around, we're not actually reducing the amount of fossil fuels we burn. I've been reading recently about oil companies are even expanding and planning to increase production rather than decreasing. Humans are adding about 1% to the CO2 in the atmosphere every single year. And we know the impact that has on warming. What we have most of all is not a science problem, not an engineering problem, it's a policy problem. Okay? We know CO2 is harmful, but we're allowing big sectors of the economy to put CO2 into the atmosphere, knowing that it harms the environment. Since we don't have a fee on carbon at the moment, we don't have a plan for a fee on carbon, I think of this as a big subsidy to the sectors of the economy that are knowingly damaging the environment. Okay. I would rather see us put a fee on carbon, like in this resolution. And what's great about that is we don't micromanage industries. We put the right fee on carbon, and we allow individuals, not governments and regulations.
Time.
Yep, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't know if you heard me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Charlotte Wright.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Wright. I live at 428 South Main here in BG. Thank you for allowing me to speak here again tonight. At the last meeting, Mr. Robinette raised some concerns regarding the effect of a carbon fee and dividend on industry. I agree completely with him that a strong economy is important for the welfare of our country. Growing up in Metro Detroit, I recognize the importance of industry in providing good-paying jobs to families. In fact, I currently work in the auto industry myself. I think it's important to state that a carbon fee and dividend, which I would like to point out is a different strategy than cap and trade or formerly proposed carbon credit programs, does not mean shutting down energy-intensive industries. British Columbia implemented a carbon fee in 2008, and a study done in 2015 confirmed that the tax had reduced emissions in the province between 5 and 15% since being implemented without adversely interfering with economic growth. A carbon fee and dividend policy framework seeks only to reduce harmful carbon pollution by smoothly and efficiently transitioning us to low and zero emission technologies. Even energy-intensive industries like steel or cement manufacturing can be powered by nuclear or renewables, or refunds for captured and sequestered carbon could be built into the framework, allowing for the continued use of fossil fuels. Wind and solar energy costs have dropped dramatically in recent years to the point where they are becoming competitive, or in many cases are already competitive with fossil fuels on a strict economic basis. As these technologies are scaled and improved, clean energy will become even more affordable and will enable us to provide the same goods and services we use today, but in a responsible, sustainable manner. American manufacturing is already some of the cleanest in the world, and a carbon fee and dividend with a carbon border adjustment will actually reward our manufacturers by leveling the playing field with overseas polluters. It's important to note, too, that our current business-as-usual model is already causing damage to our economy. Not only are there the estimated municipal costs I mentioned at the last meeting, but as an example, 74% of the cotton crop in Texas had to be abandoned last year due to...
Thank you.
Robert Clark Phelps.
Good evening. Robert Clark Phelps, 640 Ashbury Drive, Perrysburg. As Charlotte said, we're in full agreement that maintaining a strong economy is a key part of any energy policy. Those who question efforts to address climate change often imply that we have to choose between the economy and the environment. In reality, we can preserve a safe and stable climate together with sustainable economic growth. The carbon fee and dividend policy endorsed by Resolution 3859 does exactly that. Carbon fee and dividend fosters an efficient replacement of dirty energy technologies with cleaner options through an economy-wide price on carbon pollution. 3 features make it very business-friendly. The fee can be designed to start low and increase gradually over 10 to 20 years. This structure provides for an orderly transition, with businesses ramping their emissions down as the fee is ramping up. Second, the fee is transparent and predictable, enabling business owners to easily calculate the return on their investment in cleaner energy technologies. Lastly, the fee creates a level playing field internationally when combined with a carbon border adjustment mechanism. For all these reasons, the carbon fee and dividend policy has received bipartisan endorsement from 3,649 U.S. economists, including 28 Nobel laureates and 4 former chairs of the Federal Reserve. This is the largest public statement of economists in history. It has also been endorsed by the Business Roundtable, the Electric Power Supply Association, and even the American Petroleum Institute. You have already demonstrated leadership and sustainability here in Bowling Green. Please take the next step by urging Congress to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Travis Chapin.
Travis Chapin, 17303 Euler Road. I put my speech aside, realizing that I have only 2 minutes, so I'll get right to the crux of the thing. On December 7th, 1941, the United States was attacked at Pearl Harbor. And at that time, there was a great degree of isolationism. That's not our battle. Charles Lindbergh himself was opposed to it, but Pearl Harbor changed all that. And we sat there looking at what the world was doing, and it wasn't our problem. The U.S. military is online. If you look online, there's the strategic plan for climate strategy. One of the biggest problems that is facing the United States today is going to be what we're going to do with the military. And as a final note on that, a lot of our military goes to protect our resources as far as fossil fuels. We have to protect that lane, that avenue, and it's time to support something like carbon fee and dividend that's proposed by CCL, and we hope you endorse the resolution. And I didn't even get called on time. Thanks, Jody.
All right, thank you very much.
Mary Hinkleman.
Hello, everyone. Mary Hinkleman, Executive Director of the Bowling Green Chamber of Commerce. Guess why I'm here tonight? I want to thank everybody from the city and the community for coming out in full strength for our holiday parade this weekend. We saw record crowds lining the streets, had a wonderful turnout for the parade itself, and we're super excited on how it just continues to grow. Jeff and Rachel, thank you for your help with the Parklet experience. We started that last year, and this year it was just as exciting for everyone as it was last year, if not more. So I just want to say we got to continue to grow this event and see what else we can do with it, extend it into a longer time frame in the downtown. I think there's so much more potential. But I'm here with a trophy tonight, too. We definitely have winners from the parade. Our best float decoration was decoration and construction was Wood County Hospital. Yay to them. And they're great supporters of this event and many others for the Chamber of Commerce. Best youth organization goes to BW Twirlers. And best live performance, the Heights Baton Company. And our most unique was a tie with Cousineau Restoration and Bowling Green Public Works. I wish Mick was here. So I'm going to give this to the mayor, but could you please make sure that he gets it and thank them for all their help. And don't forget, Saturday, Shop Small Saturday. Small is a little condescending. I don't think any of our businesses are small. They're some of the most fantastic businesses. So please get out and support local on Saturday and all year round. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mary, I gotta tell you, it's a lot less fun to take those things apart when it's snowing outside, so let's be careful about that deadline.
That's everyone.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the introduction of new legislation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
on behalf of the Finance Committee, I have an ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator to dispose of equipment no longer needed for municipal purposes.
Official reports, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. I don't really have a report per se, but I would like to take an opportunity to thank Mary, if she's still here, and everyone associated with the holiday parade. As you mentioned, when we discussed before the council meeting, my observation riding down the parade route on Saturday was that I had never seen that many people along the route. It was exceptionally well attended, great enthusiasm. So congratulations, Mary, to you and your entire team. I know that that's not an event that comes together over the course of a short period of time. That's a work in progress over the course almost of an entire year. Tremendous amount of work, tremendous amount of effort, but certainly it's worth it. I mean, the viewership on WTOL, I don't remember exactly what it was last year, but like 10,000 or something like that, or
We've hit almost 30,000.
okay, yeah.
Anywhere from 20,000 to 30,000 viewers.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a great commercial for Bowling Green, and I think that we're all grateful for Mary and everybody on that team that allows that to be presented for the community every year. So, Mary, thank you very much. Completes my report. Subject to any questions that you may have. Excuse me while I move my swag here.
Any questions for the mayor this evening? Okay.
Thank you.
Municipal Administrator, Ms. Treader.
Good evening, Council. You may remember a couple meetings ago that we had invited our HR director, former now HR director, Barbara Ford, here and said some nice words about here. Well, tonight we have our new HR director here with us. Her name is Michelle Ish, if you can stand, Michelle. Michelle comes to us from Ottawa County, where in the last 12 and a half years she has been working, most recently serving as the HR director there. She is exceptionally experienced in workers' comp. She also holds a senior professional HR credentialing, and she is full of energy and good ideas and has been wonderful to work with in her time here since early October. So I do hope you'll take the opportunity to meet her, and we look forward to continuing the great tradition of HR professionals here at the City of Bowling Green. That completes my report this evening, subject to your questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Treader this evening? Okay. I would just like to say, Michelle, welcome aboard. And number two, we have a minimum 3-decade contract, so. All right, City Attorney, Mr. Brown.
No report.
Any questions for Mr. Brown this evening?
Yes, Mr. President. On the dog parks issue, we are prepared to start working on that lease, I think. Is that a correct assessment?
I'm not sure, but we can easily talk about this. My schedule's pretty open tomorrow if you want to meet and
Perfect.
go over that.
Afternoon.
That's great.
Anything else for the City Attorney? Okay. Public Infrastructure Director, Mr. O'Connell.
Thank you. We did present the utilities budget for 2024 last Monday to the Board of Utilities and members of City Council. We'll be asking the board to approve that budget on the 27th at our next Board of Public Utilities meeting, as we typically do. Well, the other update I have is the Ohio Department of Development has a water and wastewater grant application that they're going to put out on the 28th. So we are looking to submit a project or two from Bowling Green. It gets up to $5 million potentially you can be awarded. They've got about 100 and I think it's $120 to $140 million across the state of Ohio to pass out. So depends on the size of the projects and how much they fund. We did get, the last round, we did get $1.1 million in grant dollars for a project at the water plant. So there's no guarantee that we'll get anything for this round, but we're certainly going to try and see if we can get some grant money through that process. So that's all I have unless you have questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. O'Connell this evening?
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Mr. O'Connell, I have a somewhat random question. A constituent has asked me why we use the clamshell to pick up the leaves, which damages the roads, instead of a leaf vacuum like they've seen in other municipalities.
It's actually a public works question, but I can try to address that. So they did, other towns do use the leaf vacuum. And Laura, do you want to take that one? Nope. Okay. Sorry, I saw you reach for the mic.
I'm sorry.
So Public Works typically uses the claw or the clamshell, and it looks like it does damage the road, but it really doesn't damage the road. It just puts a little bit of a marking or a scar on the road. It may not look the best when you're driving, but it's typically wear off over time. Also, the claw is a faster process for us to pick up leaves than the vacuum process, and they also use that claw for removing the snow on Main Street. When we get winters, they plow to the center of the road. They use that same machine to pick up the snow and get it off the road through the downtown. So it's really just a operational process as far as reducing the amount of machinery that we need. They found that is a faster process for our crews, at least, to pick up leaves. And so that's my understanding why they use the claw or the clamshell to pick up leaves.
Great, thank you.
We also would like to remind people, though, that composting of leaves has a lot of environmental benefit, and we are working with our sustainability group, and we encourage everyone to continue looking at ways to use those leaves, kind of the love them, leave them mentality that we think really is important. And I think that as a community, continuing those discussions would be very important so we can reduce the number of leaves being collected.
Anything else for Mr. O'Connell this evening? Okay. That brings us to council committee reports.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
immediately before our council meeting this evening, the Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee held 2 public hearings on ordinances being given third readings this evening. Ordinance 9137 and 9138. We, as a committee, heard no citizen objections to either of those ordinances.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Mr. Robinette.
I have 2 updates, reminders from the Finance Committee. First, there's a Finance Committee meeting at 6 p.m. on December 4th regarding Ordinance 9131. I'll be publishing an agenda next week, distributing it. And secondly, the Finance Committee annual budget meeting will be at 5 p.m. on December 14th, which is a Thursday, to receive the 2024 budget from the city administration.
Okay. Mr. President, is this when I should request a public hearing for the Community Improvement Committee?
You can.
I would like to request a public hearing on November the 30th at 6 o'clock for the Community Improvement Committee.
Any other council committee reports? Okay. So Jody, that will bring us to the reading of legislation.
Legislation for first reading. Ordinance number 9152 for first reading. Ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator to dispose of equipment no longer needed for municipal purposes. Legislation for second reading. Resolution number 3859 for second reading. Resolution in support of a market-based component to enhance citizen quality of life through improved air quality. Ordinance number 9146 for second reading. Ordinance amending and adopting section 33.04 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio, relative to pay scales for seasonal employees. Ordinance number 9147 for second reading. Ordinance amending and adopting sections of Chapter 30 of the codified ordinances of the city regarding members, compensation, terms. Ordinance number 9149 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing an easement for a First Energy transmission line. Ordinance number 9150 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing the Utilities Director to enter into contracts for services associated with a geographic information system utility pole audit. Ordinance number 9151 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing the Utilities Director to execute a conduit lease agreement with Amplex Electric, Inc. Legislation for third reading. Ordinance number 9136. Ordinance declaring the improvement of certain parcels of real property to be a public purpose, declaring such property to be exempt from real property taxation, designating specific public infrastructure improvements that, once made, will directly benefit the parcels for which improvement is declared to be a public purpose, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, establishing a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund, and providing related authorizations pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Sections 5709.40B, 57.09.42, 57.09.43, 57.09.82, 5709.83, and 5709.85.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt ordinance 9136.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Jody?
Harold?
Yes.
Hollenbaugh?
Yes.
Odoricio?
Yes.
Phipps?
Yes.
Robinette?
Yes.
Rabando?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9136 is adopted.
Ordinance number 9137 for third reading. Ordinance amending the zoning district map of the city of Bowling Green for approximately 1.57 acres on South Dunbridge Road, parcel number B07-511-2800-000-20002 from A1 agricultural to IE innovation and employment zoning.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
I move to adopt ordinance 9137.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Jody?
Hollenbaugh?
Yes.
Odoricio?
Yes.
Phipps?
Yes.
Robinette?
Yes.
Rabando?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9137 is adopted.
Sorry. Paperclip. Ordinance number 9138 for third reading. Ordinance amending and adopting sections of Chapter 150 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio concerning zoning code.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
I move to adopt ordinance 9138.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Odoricio?
Yes.
Phipps?
Yes.
Robinette?
Yes.
Rabando?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
Yes. Ordinance 9138 is adopted.
Ordinance number 9139 for third reading. Ordinance amending and adopting section 70.40 C1G, C2, and C4 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green regarding inoperable vehicles.
Mr. President,
Mr. Odoricio.
I move to table ordinance 9139 pending a public hearing in the Community Improvement Committee to December 18th.
Second.
Okay. Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Rabando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9139 is tabled to our meeting on December 18th.
Ordinance number 9140 for third reading. Ordinance amending and adopting section 99.20A of the codified ordinances of the city of Bowling Green concerning noxious weeds duty to cut.
Mr. President,
Mr. Odericio.
I move to table ordinance 9140 to our December 18th meeting pending opportunity for public comment.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Jody?
Robinette,
Yes.
Rabando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 9140 is tabled till our December 18th meeting.
Ordinance number 9141 for third reading. Ordinance creating and adopting section 99.21 of the codified ordinances of the city of Bowling Green concerning managed natural landscape.
Mr. President,
Mr. Odericio.
I move to table ordinance 9141 to our December 18th meeting pending public comment.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Jody?
Rabando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio.
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9141 is tabled until our December 18th.
Ordinance number 9142 for third reading. Ordinance creating and adopting Chapter 159 of the codified ordinances of the city of Bowling Green concerning exterior property maintenance.
Mr. President,
Mr. Odericio.
I move to table ordinance 9142 to our December 18th meeting pending public comment.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Jody?
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio.
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Rabando.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9142 is tabled until our December 18th. Just a note, the meeting you scheduled earlier is for the purpose of discussing these.
Yes.
So that would be the meeting on November 30th at 6 o'clock in council chamber. Okay, is there any other business to come before council this evening?
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette?
no business. I'd just like to wish everyone on council and here in this room a very happy Thanksgiving.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor of a happy Thanksgiving, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. President, I've got an additional question. I don't know who this would go to, or maybe it's just more of a general comment. I don't know if it's been an organized effort, but I've gotten several people that have reached out to me recently about putting our agendas and legislation online in advance of meetings. That's something that we used to do that we are no longer doing? Is it something we could do? Maybe, I mean, we don't have to make a decision now, but
Sure, we can take that under advisement. I think the agendas go, Jody, does it get published before or after the agenda part?
Agenda goes Friday afternoon.
So the agenda is posted on Friday afternoon.
on the website, though, with the legislation?
I believe it is just the agenda because legislation can be amended once it's out there. So that is a bit, I think some of the challenge that we've talked about in the past is if you have legislation out there and then it gets amended. But we are glad to review that and discuss it and make a recommendation to council.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
I have received those requests as well.
Okay, any other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
All right. Jeff.